Hello doll friends, this is Michael Canadas with the Carmel Doll Shop and the Grovian Doll Museum. I'm going to give you a little bit of the background story on Casa Paloma. It is from Puebla, Mexico, Puebla de Los Angeles. This house is believed to be a replica of one of the grand colonial homes in Puebla. And in 1977, it was offered to the world-renowned dollhouse expert, Flora Gill Jacobs. And Flora Gill Jacobs not only was an author, but she had the Washington Dollhouse Museum. And she purchased this house from actually, which was very interesting, from a camera store. It was in the window of a camera store, but we believe an antique dealer brokered the deal. And in 1977, she paid 1 million pesos. And that was the equivalent to about 80,000 US dollars. So that was a lot of money. Then, now, still is. Her museum went on, and I remember going in the late 1980s to her museum and seeing Casa Paloma, and it was my favorite thing in the museum. Then her museum closed, and her items went off to auction, and then Angel's Attic Museum bought it, and they paid $237,000. Just in the last couple of years, that museum closed, and David and I had the opportunity to buy a few choice items from the museum, and we chose this item, which is Casa Paloma. So I'm going to ask Samantha, I'm going to give you a house tour, but we're going to start in the gardens. And we're going to go through the gardens, which are amazing. And if you look at all of the planters are all wrought iron work that's beautifully done, crafted in Mexico with beautiful European flowers, beautiful gates. And so if you were going to be a guest to Casa Paloma, you would come through these gates and you'd open up through here. And then if you look down here, you see we have a little pond with little fishes swimming in the pond. Really very clever way that they have mounted them in this glass box. It's almost what a someone that did butterflies or insects would do. And then there's a glass top which gives the illusion of water, and then an icicle, a glass icicle that was turned to look like running water. And then, you know, there's lots and lots of little special things about Casa Paloma. I just noticed today that this little ornament here is actually a piece of jewelry that's been probably a brooch or a button that's been cut in half. And then there's wonderful silver plate pieces and armalou pieces, but beautiful tiles, which of course this part of the world is known for. So if you were a guest, you would probably come in. You'd have two ways that you'd come as a guest. You'd go through these gates and then go up this staircase, or you'd have to walk through this garden, and then you would have to see their automobile, which is a 1916 American car, and it's a Page. And when this automobile was new, a real car, it would run you about between 12 and 1,500 US dollars. And today, if you were going to find this actual automobile, it would probably cost you in the neighborhood of $70,000 to $100,000 for that piece. But it's really an incredibly rare thing. So the guests would have to come through the garden, through the gate, past the car, which that would be very braggadocious. And then they would get to go up the elevator. So I should show you the elevator, because it's a fully working elevator. And it'll go to down to the ground floor. It will pick up the passengers. it's going to go right back up. And it's not going to stop until it hits. We're going to go up. Now I'm going to get ready to stop it. So it lands perfectly. I guess this would be considered the second or the first floor by European standards. And I should say European standards. Puebla was founded in 1531, which makes it one of the, if not the oldest cities in the Americas. They had great wealth. When the Spanish conquered Mexico, the first thing that they got were the goodies that they took from them was, of course, the gold, which made Spain a super world power. But the gold, just like the gold in California, the gold is just the beginning. Then they had all the incredible food sources that virtually every culture on this planet now takes for granted. Corn, potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, the list goes on and on of the food sources that Mexico provided the world. But the number one thing that they provided the world, which really changed everything, was cotton. Cotton was king, and cotton came from Mexico. So pre 1531, there wasn't a supply of cotton the way that there is today. And cotton was a commodity. We do not know what the background of the family that owned this house, but they were certainly quite wealthy. And the first room I'm going to take you into, because we just landed on the second floor, is going to be the chapel. So like a Spanish house or a very rich French house, you would have your own chapel, so that you could do daily mass if you liked. Now, we had to do a lot of rearranging when we received this house. And I should tell you all that literally we had no time to pack the house. We literally had to take our hands and scoop everything out and put it into boxes. And we were very lucky in this whole house, we only had one little item that broke. We did have to reconfigure the decoration of the house because Flora Gill, when she received it, put every single religious item that she had into the chapel, which is not how a Catholic house works. You would, yes, have a full chapel with all of your implements and things that you needed, but those items would be throughout the house. So we did have to make some changes in that way. The house was built in 1890, and in 1922 it had a renovation. And if you do the math, the child that had it in 1890, by 1922 she had children of her own, we believe, and it makes kind of sense. So then the house got a renovation, which was electricity, running water, radio towers, and then new state-of-the-art things. But the thing that's very interesting about the chapel is the altar. Whoever made this house, created the house, created the altar. They also created the prie-dieu, which are these pieces here, which, by the way, are very rare. These chairs and the candlesticks, altar sticks, I believe, and David also believes, these are 18th century. So Mexico was always very good at tollware work. And if you notice on the back, this is all a prayer in Latin, and we did have it translated. But this is all tinware, and beautifully done, not unlike rock and grinder furniture and things like that. But it's very, very colonial typical of Mexico and that part of the world, copying European furniture. This is also a wonderful thing. It's too delicate to put on the wall, but it's a little made out of cotton, a little crucifix of Jesus. Just very, very delicate. The chapel is set up, ready for service. Everything is in the right place except for the goblets, which are housed in that box. They should be down one step, but we don't have quite enough room. And then, of course, our priest, again, he was probably already 100 years old when this house was created. So, people collect things and add to their houses today, and they did it then too. The wallpaper is original to this room. The carpeting is original. They did have, it's cut velvet, but they did have carpeting at this era. It's pretty much ready to go. We're missing probably another incense burner, and I've said this before in videos. I'm like the cobblers. My children don't get any shoes, so David needs to make some candles for the altar sticks. But this is where you would go and you would have your private religious ceremony. You could go every day. This was a wealthy family, so a priest would definitely stop by. Most likely, if you could live into a home like this, you would be a benefactor to the church, so they would do that for you. But it's a wonderful room, and you can always create drama in a chapel. When I mean drama, decorative drama. So the next room we're going to go to would be the salon. And bear with me because this opens in all different kinds of very clever ways. So here is the salon. Now, David and I had to do some sleuthing. When the house came to America in 1977 and went into the Angel's Attic, they set it up the way it came from Mexico. When we unpacked it and laid everything out, which looked like an explosion in this room, we realized that there were some real problems. And basically, the house was short of 2 rooms of furniture. This had been turned into a bedroom, and the bedroom furniture barely filled it. So what we realized is this room and this room at some point had lost their furniture. I mean, it happens. So rather than spread out not enough furniture to go around, we gave it a new suite of furniture, tried to find things that were right for the room. So we have done that. If you notice the light fixture, that was not there in 1890. That was from the 1922 period. Of course, we're going to leave that there. The things that were of the time that were in the house, I want to show you. Basically, I'm not wild about these crazy shades, but this is 1890s shade. Electricity was coming in. It was considered, you probably had 300-watt light bulbs. So you needed these crazy shades to tone down the light. I think in the wonderful miniseries Downton Abbey, the Dowager Countess, she talks about terrible light, and it was really true. So we have this one floor lamp, because you want to have that. And then this is one of the original pieces in the house, and this is a cylinder record player. And it still gives off a little bit of sound. It's really cute. Now, when you're putting a house together like this, you kind of know where things go because there's nails on the wall or there are nail holes, and that's what guided us through this. I also want to point out too, in 1922, the house was electrified. If you look way back here on the wall, there's a call button. And you could use that to call the servants. And what was really crazy is there were remnants of wires that were draped across the rooms. Not enough to look proper, so we removed them and saved them. But they were showing off that they had electricity. So the wires just would drape across the room. Total fire hazard. So we removed those but saved those pieces. So this used to be a bedroom. So now I'm going to take you to the bedroom. But before I go, I want to talk a little bit about the exterior of the house. If you notice that every floor has a different decorative motif. It'll have different balusters. It'll have, down here we have wood. Here we have ironwork. This was typical. And one of the scariest things for us getting this house ready to show it at our event for me, was cleaning the awnings. These were so dirty and so stained. I don't think that they'd ever been cleaned since probably 1922. And I did one at a time, and I managed to bring them back. But I was really afraid of ruining them, but they came back perfectly. I won't tell you how to do it because it could go really bad, so I was lucky that worked out okay. So I'm going to show you the bedroom that was formerly in that salon. So why I'm justified that this was never the bedroom, if you notice the overhangings over the door and the bed hangings are the same. So this bed wouldn't be in this room with these draperies. So the draperies told us which room it fits. And if you notice that there's just enough space for this suite of furniture. And we also believe, both David and I, that whoever created the house created this furniture. This is all one-of-a-kind, unique, handmade pieces. Like, for instance, this little piece. It's 5 pieces of wood. So they were very, very good at carving. They were doing it in the French style. And if you notice, we put some religious figures back into the bedroom, because in a Catholic house you would have that. But you notice we've got your 1922 light fixture, so you've got your 1890s French Revival furniture and your basically your Art Deco light fixture, and that's all good. And again, this furniture needed to be polished, and it just soaked up. It just soaked up the wax, and I think it looks really, really splendid today. Beautiful room, beautifully made pieces. The family did have things that were handmade, made by craftsmen in Mexico, and then they also had European things. In 1890s and today, wealthy Mexican families send their children either to America for education, they send them to, and their country of choice that they love to send them to is France. So many of the items that are in the house could have been bought on a trip to France at some point. And what's very interesting is the French have a fascination with Mexico and vice versa. So that's why you have this very Frenchy feeling in the house. Now, I will tell you that this house at some point this room was re-wallpapered, because if you look above, we've got our toilet, our water tower, our sink that are fully operational, and at some point we believe that this room got flooded, and when it got flooded it ruined the wallpaper and they redid it. So we're going to go to the other room that's had some work done to it. Not really much, but so this is the music room, and this was the other room that was missing furniture. So what we decided, what it had in it were the dining chairs just put around the room, spread out, and it really had no furniture. It had this magnificent handmade piano and no furniture. So what we did is we found a 1890s set of Turkish furniture with the beautiful cut pieces and gave the room a total life. And if you look in the corner, there's the 1922 latest edition of the gramophone with the horn, and it has all the records in place. And again, it has the modern 1922 light fixture. And the piano is, maybe I can get that out, and then Samantha can show you how amazing it is. Let's get it out without. You know, when you're playing with your doll houses, it's a good idea to not have too much coffee because you don't want to be shaky. But look at all the strings, how they've really done a beautiful job simulating a real grand piano. We're missing a little piece there. At some point when I find a metal worker will, and then there's all the keys there. And, which I love this, this is not a copy. This is original music. And when I have my musician friends here the next time, I'm going to ask them to play it, because evidently you can do some playing of music on your cell phones today. So we live in an amazing time. And again, if you noticed here, I talked earlier about the electrical wires. Here's one that's still in place, and it goes from, evidently comes out the wall, and then it goes to the call button. So that's one that's still left in place. We've saved all of them, but it was actually kind of obnoxious because it looked like a bunch of strings going across the house. So I'm going to take you to the front, and oh, I should point out too, look at the genius of this, how they inlaid a front door mat into the floor. Isn't that cute? It's a good idea. And then you've got the beautiful glass, and then we'll just take this off, and we're going to go into the dining room. So now we're in the dining room, and so all of this Schneegauss furniture, all of these chairs were put into the music room because of the lack of furniture. And so what they used in the dining room were actually the kitchen chairs. This is a rich house. They wouldn't have skimped on the furniture. But what I think is so charming about the Schneegauss furniture, probably in 1922, the seats had worn out. And what they did is, this is Mexican work. This is Mexican basket work. So they had someone that did basketry to make the new seats and backs. So I find this kind of restoration really charming because it's of the time. And then one thing we had to do, because it was just driving both of us crazy, is we had to redo all of the hanging of the pictures on the wall. Like, for instance, the Last Supper, which is really wonderful back there, a little lithography. That was up so high that I would have to stand in the middle of Forest Avenue to even see it. Or, you know, you'd have to, it was just so far up. So we rearranged some of the, this is really the only room that we rearranged the pictures. And of course, all the furniture in this room is European Schneegauss, with the exception of the plant stands. And the plant stands, we believe that whoever created this house created those one-of-a-kind plant stands, very similar to the bedroom furniture. The pictures on the wall, those were all commercially made. The porcelain's commercially made in this room. There's some really good things, but look at how braggadocious they are. In the dining room, they have their wall telephone. And again, that's a 1922 edition. There's 2 phones in the house, by the way, so that they could take calls in their dining room, so that way their guests would really, really be aware of the fact that they had a telephone. So it's a wonderful room. And then also too, I want to point out, this is commercially made paper to simulate tiles. Mexico and this part of the world was one of the premier manufacturers of beautiful tiles, and they're known for that tile work. So now we're going to go to the heart of the home. And this is one of my favorite rooms. And in the whole place, if I can get it open, and it's a little tight to get in there. But this is the kitchen. And it's one of my favorite rooms in the whole place. And this is the lady who runs the kitchen. This is Donna Petra, and she has the gift. She knows how to cook, and she's got all her little helpers in the kitchen helping her. There are many things that are very unusual, like for instance, I would have thought that these were carpet beaters to beat carpets to get them clean, but these are cooking fans. They would use these to get a fire going, or if they were cooking something that they needed air circulation, that's what those are for. This is a wonderful, darling little thing. It's a little tortilla press. Then you have your grinders, typical, still used today, but from the ancient times. And then you have your range. The range, you wouldn't, it could be French, it could be Italian, it could be Spanish. It's just a classic thing that was used for, 700 years. But the real thing that's really unusual about the kitchen, similar to, like, say, the Dutch baby houses, the pottery in the kitchen was made to order in Puebla. They were a pottery making area, and this is a really wonderful thing. Now, that's worth having to come out. I didn't know what it was at first, but then you figure out, well, it's a water filtering device. So this would be charcoal, this bit here. The water would come through the pipes, down that drain, into this. It would filter, then they would open this up, and they take the jug of fresh, pure water out of it. So, I mean, it's a really, I think it's probably a common thing to find in Mexico, but it's probably not a common thing to find in miniature. And that's what's so great about miniature things. This, I have this so that I can show people. If you can see the flaw that it has, this is paper thin. They had to make probably 50% of the pieces that they made probably did the same thing and broke. So if you were making these miniature pots, you're wasting a lot of your time and effort, but then you get some that are just absolutely gorgeous. I won't even try to say this in Spanish, but this is a wonderful thing. We used these during our Fiesta that we had there. Jose, I believe he did a video of this, of how to do this. And this is what you use. You take your hands and you go like this, and this is how you make Mexican hot chocolate. In the real pieces, well, I think this one too, they're moving parts. And the moving parts, when you start to manipulate it, makes the foam. That makes that so delicious. And I mentioned the chairs. You can see my point. These are obviously kitchen chairs. Handmade, metalwork, woodwork. I believe the person that made the house made these chairs. These are kitchen chairs. They, with a shortage of furniture, got pushed into the dining room. So now we believe they're back where they belong. And the dolls in the house are Simon & Halbig, various makers, European dolls. But here we've got one of our real, genuine Mexican dolls, handmade, tiny, tiny little needle sculpted doll with wrapped silk and hand embroidery. Just a wonderful little piece. But you can see it's just laden with food preparation. And Donna Petra runs a tight ship. So then we should go up. So we've kind of gone through these rooms. I should point out to that technically we have to use imagination and be our child's imagination. This is really just half of a house. So at this period, this house would be twice as big, and there'd be probably another wing here. This courtyard would be a center courtyard, and then there would be an enclosure here to the street. So because it's, there you go. It would be, because basically it's a one-bedroom house if you lay it out the way it is now. So it's basically all of the public rooms that we have. So we're going to go up, take the elevator, and we're going to go up to the top floor. And so Mr. Butler is going to go all the way to the top. He's going up to the top. Look how it's perfectly balanced, that all the molding, everything just works perfectly. The doors slide open on this side, and the doors slide open this way when you're at the bottom. So he's going to stop at the top, and then we're going to look at the patio. So this is a patio that has a mix of things. We've got European furniture, we've got the Schneegas, we have the classic Mexican pieces, the wrought iron, beautiful ironwork, and this is something I want to show you too. I'm going to let the parrot out, but a wonderful parrot cage. So it's got the parrot cage with the parrot in it and all the hanging parts. Again, we believe that the person that made the house made this because it's very reminiscent of all the metal work and things. So that's up here, and this is here for hot days. We have a really naughty kitty that's gotten two pigeons, and so he's going to have a little snack. If you look here, we have our radio towers from 1922, and then we have up here a radio because Donna Petra doesn't allow the radio in the house, so it has to be outside. And again, I was talking earlier about nail holes, shadows, where things used to be. If you look right on the wall there, you can see that we are missing a barometer. We believe that that's the shape of a barometer, and we're missing that. So that's on our list of things to find. And notice while you're there that the roofs of this part of the house are all glass, so we would let natural light in. And then we have our little dolls, and then we have modernity. So in 1922, we got indoor plumbing. So we've got all of our indoor plumbing there. We have a shower, a hot water, what do we call those things that hold a water heater? We have a water heater, a shower, tub, sink, working toilet that you pull the handle and it flushes. And if you notice there are pipes there, that's how we had the flood in the bedroom. So a little kid pulled to put water in it, flushed the toilet, and it ruined the wallpaper. But I love this. I just love this, how this works. It's such a great idea that, you know, we could do this today with windows that are up high. It's just really, really cute. And then I love the beautiful etched glass. And we have a little bit of what's left of a barometer here. And then we have another outdoor toilet. And I would imagine that would have probably been for the staff. And then, of course, the name of the house is Casa Paloma. So there we have our palomas. And we have a little pen for chickens, because that was, you know, way before the organic movement. People had their own chickens to make their own eggs. And the doll that, here's Palomita, who's the little girl that lives in the house with her little brother. You know, we're not totally sure of the family dynamics. It kind of, you know, it evolves, but We know Donna, Petra, and Palomita, you know, are the main people in the house. But it's a wonderful thing to have come across, and both David and I feel really, really fortunate that we are now the caretakers of this house for I guess it would be the fourth chapter in the family's house. The one thing that's wonderful about it is it brings people together. The story of the food, and we've had visitors from Mexico City, and in our last event we had people that this really moved them. They remember all those food implements that were used in the family and are still used. So really it's a wonderful teaching tool and just a thing of beauty. And I hope you enjoyed this tour of Casa Paloma, and we will see you somewhere in Doll World. Bye-bye.